Welcome to NBA Update. Today I will be previewing the first round NBA playoffs matchups. I will start with the Eastern Conference playoff matchups and then move on to the Western Conference playoff matchups. The first seed Cleveland Cavaliers will play the 8th seed Detroit Pistons in the best of 7. The series will be a challenging matchup on paper because of the inside presence of the bigs inside in Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond is a big physical presence inside. They need to have Kevin Love show up and have big games if they are to win, as well as Tristan Thompson. Key players in the series for the Pistons are Andre Drummond, as I mentioned before. He needs to dominate play in order for Detroit to even have a shot to win the series. Reggie Jackson is another key player for the Detroit Pistons. He averaged around 19 points and 6 assists. He was a very key player in the Detroit Pistons lineup this season. Marcus Morris is another key player in this Detroit Pistons team. He is a very solid player, but I wouldn't exactly call him a model of consistency. He'll average like around 14, 15 points a game. Occasionally he'll put up 20, but you can't bank on 20 every night. So the key players for the Cavaliers are LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love, the big three for the Cavs. And if they want to win the championship, they need all three to remain healthy and play well. The X factor for the Cleveland Cavaliers is Tristan Thompson. Tristan Thompson is the guy that gets overlooked, but he's getting paid 5 years, $82 million, $16 million per season. He needs to prove his worth. Other than getting rebounds, he needs to show some development in his game, add some offense other than getting rebounds. The Detroit Pistons key player or X factor is Tobias Harris. He's a small forward that probably is going to have the assignment of marking LeBron James. So for that reason, he's the X factor. And if he can pop in a few baskets and have a couple good games, Detroit may push for an interesting series. So my prediction in this series is the Cavs win in 5 games because logistically the Pistons just aren't a deep enough team, and the overall skill level of the Cavs just overpower them. Next up is the 2nd seeded Toronto Raptors facing the 7th seeded Indiana Pacers. The Toronto Raptors appear to be a better team on paper, but as we all know, the playoffs is not played on paper. It's not like 2K where you sim and the top seeds automatically almost always win. You take a look at the Pacers. It appears that it's Paul George and a bunch of support players, but sometimes that one superstar can carry a team in the playoffs. The key players for the Raptors are Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, and Jonas Valanciunas. If the Toronto Raptors are going to win the series, they need to change their style of play. They cannot rely on shooting jump shots. You don't win in the playoffs by shooting jump shots. You need to go inside to Valanciunas and utilize him. The key players for the Pacers are Paul George, Monte Ellis, and Miles Turner. Paul George, as I mentioned before, is the superstar of the team, and he's going to have to carry the team if the Pacers want to move far in the playoffs. Monte Ellis is kind of a headache at times. He just sometimes chucks up a lot of shots, and that's frustrating for the fans of the Pacers and for his teammates. I think one of the biggest turning points or X factors for this team is Miles Turner. He is a key player, but he's also a key player because Miles Turner is one of the young centers for the Pacers, and he needs to show up and average around 15, 16 points and gets around like 5, 6 rebounds because he's playing power forward and ready to have Mahimi playing center. You need Miles Turner to score and you need him to block shots. The X factor in the series for the Raptors is Bismack Biyombo. Bismack Biyombo is a big that gets overlooked. He had a career year this year with the absence of Valanciunas. Hopefully the Raptors can utilize him more. The X factor for the Pacers is George Hill. George Hill is the point guard for the Pacers. But if George Hill falters, they brought in Ty Lawson. The prediction for this series is that Pacers win in 6 games. The Miami Heat versus the 6th-seeded Charlotte Hornets is the next series in the Eastern Conference. The Miami Heat have more playoff experience and are a better team than the Hornets on paper. However, in the playoffs, anything can really happen. The key players in this matchup are for the Miami Heat, Dwayne Wade, Goran Dragic, and Hassan Whiteside. Dwayne Wade has been with the Miami Heat for his entire career. He's won 3 championships there, and he's been to the finals before. He's won MVP. He's done it all in his career. He knows what it takes to win. Goran Dragic and Hassan Whiteside haven't won a championship before. So it's interesting to see how they'll fit into the dynamic. But with Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley there, I'm pretty sure they'll figure it out. The Charlotte Hornets key players are Kemba Walker, Nicholas Batum, and Al Jefferson. Al Jefferson is playing less minutes and a lesser role on the team this year, but he's still a big part of the team. Nicholas Batum is going to probably have a big role. He's the secondary scorer on the team behind Kemba Walker. And last but not least, Kemba Walker is the key player for them. He was their leading scorer, and he is their go-to guy. The X factor for the Heat is Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson was a waiver pickup after he got bought out from the contract by the Brooklyn Nets. Joe Johnson was a great fit with the Heat after he got picked up. Joe Johnson looks to be a good fit here, and it's interesting to see how he'll do in the playoffs because sometimes he'll have cold shooting streaks, and when he's hot, he can put up 20 to 30 points. So it's interesting to see which Joe Johnson shows up in the playoffs. The Hornets X factor is Jeremy Lin. Jeremy Lin was one of the contenders for Sixth Man of the Year. Jeremy Lin, I think, is a key to the team because he runs the second unit. And as we all know, the second unit is really important because when you take the starters out, you need the second unit to remain productive enough to stay in the game. And the last series in the Eastern Conference is probably the most intriguing one, the Boston Celtics versus the Atlanta Hawks. Either team can win this series. Key players in this series for both teams, for the Celtics, Isaiah Thomas, Avery Bradley, and Jay Crowder. Isaiah Thomas had a breakout year this year. Isaiah Thomas has been superb this year. Absolutely outstanding. Avery Bradley is extremely underrated. He's a great two-way player, and he defends well, and he's a good 15, 16-point player. Jay Crowder is another one of those good two-way players that can do it all. Atlanta Hawks, the key players are Jeff Teague, Paul Millsap, and Al Horford. All three of these players need to show up, as neither of them are overwhelming superstars or star players. They are good players that put up solid numbers, but I wouldn't exactly call them star players. X factors in the series are Evan Turner for the Celtics and Jordan Schroeder for the Atlanta Hawks. Dennis Schroeder is the X factor for the Atlanta Hawks because he is the sixth man for them. When you take Jeff Teague out of the game, you need Schroeder to continue running the offense. And similar to Evan Turner for the Celtics, Evan Turner is very streaky. He'll have some games where he'll put up 12 to 16 points, dish out 6 boards, 6 assists, and that's great. But then he'll have some games where he averages 4 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists. Like, he has to find a medium where he can still remain productive in all categories. So my prediction for the series is that the Celtics win in 6 games. The Western Conference matchups now are the first seeded Golden State Warriors versus the 8th seeded Houston Rockets. The Golden State Warriors are the best team this year in the NBA and had the best all-time record ever in history. However, this will not mean anything if they do not win a championship. Key players in this series will be for the Warriors, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. For the Rockets, it will be James Harden, Dwight Howard, and Patrick Beverley. As we all know, Steph Curry is right now the best player in the NBA right now. And he is the MVP of the season. Klay Thompson is probably the second best shooter in the NBA right now. That's a scary backcourt when you have 2 of the best shooters in the NBA in the same backcourt. And you have one of the better passing big men that can just grab a rebound and bring up the court in Draymond Green. And it's a good two-way player. Now, for the Rockets, James Harden needs to show up in the playoffs. There's no excuses. We all know he doesn't play defense, but he needs to show up offensively as well. In the previous playoff series, he has had streaks where he had like 9 points or 5 points or went 4 for 11 or 4 for 19. He needs to have better shooting percentages, get others involved, and have better games where he takes over the team, like in the regular season. Dwight Howard is another player that needs to step up his game. If he wants to be looked at as a star player in the league, he needs to play like one. Patrick Beverley is another key player. He's not a star player, but he's an important player in this series because he has the responsibility of playing against Steph Curry. X factors for this series for the Warriors is Andre Iguodala. Andre Iguodala was last year's playoff MVP for the Warriors. For that reason, he's the X factor. For the Rockets, it's Michael Beasley. Michael Beasley was a 10-day tryout, and he was one of the Rockets' best players in the second half of the season. The prediction is that the Warriors sweep the series. The San Antonio Spurs are the second seed, and they would be the first seed if not for such a great season by the Golden State Warriors. And they will have to take on a gritty Memphis Grizzlies team. However, the Memphis Grizzlies are riddled with injuries and are not the same team that they are with those injuries. The Memphis Grizzlies are missing one of their key players in Marc Gasol, and that is a big loss. So the key players for the Grizzlies would be Zach Randolph, Mike Conley, and Vince Carter. Vince Carter is 39 years old, but he can still play. And he will have to go against Kawhi Leonard. Mike Conley is their starting point guard, but he's not 100%. Zach Randolph is probably their best player in the lineup right now. So he needs to show up and have big games if they are to win the game or series. Key players for the Spurs are Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is going to likely win Defensive Player of the Year. And he is a strong consideration of that for MVP. LaMarcus Aldridge is another key player. As the season went on, LaMarcus Aldridge played better and better. And this season, you can see a clear commitment to playing defense, unlike previous seasons. And Tim Duncan, at the age of 40, can still play in the playoffs. They rested him a lot of games this season to preserve him for the playoffs. You can expect a fresh Tim Duncan in the playoffs. X factor for the Spurs is Tony Parker. Tony Parker got rested a lot in the regular season, so you can expect a fresh Tony Parker in the playoffs. The X factor for the Grizzlies is Lance Stevenson. Lance Stevenson needs to show up and drop the antics, just play basketball. If he could do that and put on like 17 points or 18 points, the Grizzlies would fare a much better shot than if the Lance Stevenson that is full of antics, just blowing in people's ear and putting up 5 points shows up. The prediction is that the Spurs win in 5 games. Next series is the Oklahoma City Thunder facing the Dallas Mavericks. The Thunder on paper are definitely the better team. They should beat the Mavericks just because of Durant and Westbrook. Those two just are an overpowering tandem. However, as we all know, the Mavericks are always a tough matchup in the playoffs. Key players in this matchup are, for the Thunder, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and Serge Ibaka. Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook were both big considerations for the MVP this season, and they both had tremendous seasons. Russell Westbrook went on streaks of consecutive triple-doubles. He really went out of his way to reinvent his game. He made it a point to pass the ball. He got his teammates involved, and as a result, his team played much better. Kevin Durant, because of the emergence of Kawhi Leonard, the season Steph Curry's had, and he kind of got lost in the footsteps of them. But Kevin Durant is having the same season he's always had. And Serge Ibaka is the third man in the equation. But he may also be the most important, because without Serge Ibaka, I don't know if the Thunder can win the series, because the Mavs pose a mismatch down low in Dirk Nowitzki. And it's going to be tough to defend Dirk down low without Ibaka there. Now, that brings me to the key players for the Mavs. The first key player is Dirk. The second one is Darren Williams. And the third is Chandler Parsons. Chandler Parsons needs to show up and prove his worth for his contract. Yes, he had like 13, 14 points in the regular season. That's not worth his contract. He needs to put up those 16 to 20 points. Darren Williams had a great resurrection season in Dallas. He played a solid second man role to Dirk. Dirk slowed down a little bit this season, but he can still play. The X factor in the series for the Thunder is Enes Kanter. Enes Kanter is a player that can put up 17 points or 18 points. Occasionally he'll put up 20. But Enes Kanter is a center that can stretch the floor and create some havoc on the offensive side of the floor. What is in question for Enes Kanter is, will he commit to playing defense? For the Mavs, the key player is Wesley Matthews. Wesley Matthews is a player that can play on both sides of the ball. He can hit three-point shots. He draws the assignment of going against some tough assignments. He may be drawing the assignment of guarding Kevin Durant, possibly. Prediction for the series is the Thunder in 5. And the last series in the Western Conference playoffs, or the first round of the playoffs, is the Los Angeles Clippers versus the Portland Trailblazers. This series features a duel between two of the elite point guards in the league, and CP3 and Damian Lillard. The Clippers have a better overall team. It will be very back and forth because of the game-breaking ability of Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. Key players for the Clippers are CP3, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan. We all know that CP3 will show up. But what about Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan? Blake Griffin usually shows up in the first half, but in the second half, he's invisible. What about DeAndre Jordan? Can he shoot free throws? DeAndre Jordan is kind of the biggest question mark. He'll get a lot of rebounds, a lot of second chance opportunities. He'll get tip-ins, and he'll get slam dunks. That's great and all for hype, but in the playoffs, if you're a liability to shoot free throws, you can't put him in the game. That's a huge liability. You can't put him in the game for almost the whole fourth quarter. They'll automatically foul you. The Blazers' key players are Damian Lillard, C.J. McCollum, and Mason Plumlee. The reason why I said Mason Plumlee is a key player is because once the Blazers got Mason Plumlee in the deadline, he and Lillard formed a pretty good pick and pop tandem, and he does a really good job at rolling to the basket and getting dunks or just popping out and hitting a jump shot. Damian Lillard is probably the most snubbed player in the NBA, snubbed of 2 All-Star selections. You would think that this guy should be recognized as an All-Star player, but no. He should be in the superstar category already. C.J. McCollum is going or has arrived. He and Lillard are going to be a force to reckon with for many years to come. That's going to be a dangerous backcourt for many years to come. You're going to be talking about 2 20-plus point scorers and 2 guys that can shoot, distribute, and do it all. The X factors in the series for the Clippers is Jeff Green. Jeff Green is a player that sometimes is inconsistent. He'll average around like maybe 15 points, but then he'll go off for like 28 points. The Blazers' key player or X factor is Allen Crabbe. Allen Crabbe had a streak of games where he had put up like 20 or more points. You need that Allen Crabbe to show up, not the Allen Crabbe that put up like 5 or less points. The prediction for the series is that the Clippers win in 7 games. Next episode, I will be talking about the NBA playoff update, and I will be talking about the scoring leaders in the playoffs.